God has given all of us a mission to make disciples here and everywhere for the glory of God.
Minus 10, 9.
We want our church to be a launch pad for sending people out on the mission God has for them. Regardless of who you are, we all have a role to play. We are all involved in God's story. We pray that the story shared through Mission Control will encourage you to see how God is calling you to be used by Him. Well, welcome to Mission Control Podcast. My name is Amanda, and I'm the Communications Director here at First Baptist Melbourne. Today we have Matt Thomas. Matt Thomas was one of our church planting residents with the Launchpad program.
Yeah.
He's currently the lead pastor of 511, which is our are you counting as the second or third church plant?
I don't know the exact
Ecuador
order.
got a little fuzzy.
Ecuador kind of snuck in there.
I'm going to call you the second.
I would rather take a silver medal if I can, yeah.
He is the second church plant for First Baptist Melbourne, 511. And 511 planted north of our campus, targeting a Suntree Vieira location?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, before we get into it, I don't know if you've listened to many of these.
A couple.
Okay, so we're going to do our icebreaker question.
Okay, it's a space theme. I know that.
It is a space theme, and I'm going to recycle one from season 1.
Okay.
So, because I thought this one was fun.
Maybe it'll be one that I heard.
Maybe, we'll see. If you had the chance to visit a fictional location from a space-themed movie or TV show, such as the Starship Enterprise, where would you go and why?
Okay, yeah, this was not one that I heard. So
well then good.
Preparation means nothing at this point. If I had to say that again?
If you had to visit any fictional location from a space-themed movie, where would you go and why?
Oh, man. Like, I wasn't like a huge Star Trek guy, and like, I've seen most of the Star Wars movies, but like, I don't know. The only thing that's coming to mind, this is probably not what I would ever say again, but like the only thing that's coming to mind, this is just welcome to my brain, Amanda, is just that E.T. really wanted to go home for some reason.
Okay.
And so I am, at least in this moment of time, interested in what was so alluring about wherever he was from, because he really wanted to go back. He was so disappointed in Earth. And
I've never thought about it from that perspective. I've never. I want to visit E.T.'s home. Is it the place?
Right. Are we really that bad?
Okay. You know what's funny is, I only have asked this to one other person, Brandon Harvath, and he also didn't really like Starship or Star Trek or Star Wars. And so I don't even remember what his movie was, but people keep asking me if I've watched it yet, and I still have not watched it. So sorry, guys. So Matt, where does God currently have you on mission in your life?
Well, you mentioned it.
Stole your thunder.
Yeah, you kind of did. That's okay. Church planting. 511 church, and at least in terms of being on mission officially, I guess that would be it. And I mean, we're a little over 6, so almost 7 months in at this point. And I mean, God is it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. We could spend the entire podcast just talking about the cool things God has done to bring us to this space, and then provide along the way and bring the people. And of course he did. I mean, of course he did. But it's still cool. Yeah. So currently serving as the lead pastor of 511.
Are you bivocational?
Yes.
Okay, so what is your other half of your life?
It's so exciting. I work for a logistics company.
Okay.
This is like the lamest thing ever. And I sit at a desk and I'm basically customer retention, customer success stuff. I solve problems. I solve people's problems in the shipping world.
Have you been doing that for a while?
Since 2020. Yeah, a couple years.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did you start the Launchpad residency training, all the church planning training stuff?
Oh, man, like 2021, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
When did you come to First Baptist Melbourne?
January 2020.
Okay, man. So
it was everything changed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Has church planting always been on your heart, or is it a more recent thing that God kind of brought out?
Well, I've been involved in ministry, specifically pastoral ministry for, 2008.
Oh, okay.
And so a long time, was an assistant pastor and for a lot of years. And then it's always on my heart, always on my mind. And you just look around even in our county and see the need. But it's just never really in a position to pursue that. Mm-hmm. And we're just trying to be pretty disciplined and patient And if God were to open that door, which he did,
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
Fine. But being faithful where I was until God, moved us around, which he
Yeah.
ultimately did. But it was something that my wife and I would talk about periodically, just wondering if, God would ever give us the chance to do that, or if that's something he had for us.
So did you come to First Baptist Melbourne for the church planting?
Yes.
So that was in your mind coming here.
Oh,
How did you learn about it?
Well, I mean, we were in Melbourne.
Okay.
So local. I've lived here since 2008.
Okay.
And so got wind of like, hey, First is doing this cool church planty thing. And,
Church planting thing,
yeah.
technical term.
And so it's a whole thing, Amanda. And we ended up here. And within a couple weeks, it was weird because I knew some people. I mean, again, being in town, I knew some people like, oh yeah, they go to First, they're my friends, whatever.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
And I'm walking down the hallways and like everybody knew who I was. And it was so weird.
That's scary.
And it was terrifying. And the people were like, oh, like I remember like talking to David Hasker. I don't think he knew of him or whatever.
Yeah.
He comes like, oh, hey, Matt, like whatever. And then like, okay. And then, half of the staff, I'm meeting all these people, and it was very odd. And it was probably no more than a couple weeks of being here. Then I sat down with Scott and sat down with Aaron, I think Darren.
Okay.
And we're like, okay, let's talk about this church planty thing that you guys are doing.
Technical term.
Yeah. And then just kind of took off from there.
Okay. So that was January 2020.
Yeah.
Were you working in a ministry context prior to that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I was in a different church locally and was there for like 12 years. And then God just moved us out. We remained faithful there until God moved us.
Okay.
And, it was just so obvious that he did. And it was like, okay, time for something else. Okay. And then we went over here and here we are.
And then just
lots of details. Yeah.
The doors just kept opening and you just kept walking through them basically.
Pretty much,
then?
yeah.
Okay. Is what you're doing now currently what you expected you would be doing? Like, have you always kind of thought you would work in a ministry context?
Yeah. I mean, I say always. I mean, not always. Like coming out of the womb. I want to be a church planter. That wasn't quite it. But always is a big word. For a long time, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so now 20 years.
Okay.
Sure. So
when did that kind of start stirring in your heart?
I mean, I grew up like Christian home. My dad was a pastor for like 8 years of a little church. And then he transferred to a bigger church and was like an assistant pastor there, essentially.
Okay.
He actually oversaw, it was like a special needs ministry where they would drive vans out to these various houses and homes and bring in special needs people, adults and kids and everybody else. And he was their pastor. It was the coolest thing.
That's cool.
And so, yeah. And he did that forever. And so grew up in church, grew up around ministry. And then when I was out of high school, I guess after college, I just had a desire to just learn more. And so went to seminary at Liberty. And then it was during that time that God was like, okay, obviously I have something for you. You're here. And it's like, okay, you're going to be in the ministry. Didn't really know what, or what that might entail. But yeah, when I was in seminary, unknowingly preparing for the ministry.
What was the process like going through the church planting training? How has the church kind of come around you, and what excites you about that program? Yeah,
I mean, I guess the biggest takeaway for me, Amanda, is just like observing the leadership functioning together in such a healthy way. And, are privileged to be in, the staff meetings and now the preaching meetings with Scott and Cody. And we just talk about the Word of God in those meetings and we prepare sermons and stuff. But like being around the staff of a giant church and all of the many, many, many moving parts, and just seeing it function so, not perfectly, but seamlessly in that there's such a spirit of unity, there's such a spirit of humility, and just the focus on the gospel, and not making a huge deal out of much more than that. Like, I am so cut from that cloth. There's like, I used to think everything mattered. I grew up very like super conservative culture. Yeah. Everything matters.
Yeah.
And like when everything matters, nothing matters.
Yeah.
And I don't know, as I've gotten older and more immersed in ministry, it's like, okay, there's like maybe 3 things. And it's really just the gospel. And that's it. And other things matter, sure, just not as much.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool just to be around a bunch of people in the offices and stuff that's all they care about.
Yeah.
Like, yes, these are my people. Finally, ET's home. Like, this is it. This is what I want to be.
Circling it back around. That was great. What was the process like building the core team together?
I mean, a lot of, again, being local for so long, I mean, there were people that, have told me, I mean, for years prior to this, like, look, if you ever plant a church, we're in.
Okay.
Like, okay, right. Like, that's not even on my radar, but thanks. I mean, I appreciate, the loyalty and the vote of confidence, thinking that we could actually do something like that. That's awesome. And some of those people are in the church plant, which is great. And so there's a few people that just we've known from previous ministries and things that are like, hey, we'll come and support and help. And then First is just such a huge, huge help and a huge asset in that there's a vision to plant churches and, locally and then throughout the country and Ecuador, around the world.
Yeah.
And reach the nations, but understanding that, we have a huge mission field right here in our own county. And just being able to be a part of that is so cool and to be a part of that vision. But like having the availability, as Scott says, he's like, you can ask everybody, but like Megan, his wife, and then probably Darren. You probably can't ask Darren.
I mean, he said anyone but Megan.
Yeah, but we know he means Darren. And so
Darren should feel honored.
He should be. Yeah. So I didn't ask Darren or Megan for that matter. But just that opportunity. And we really didn't ask a ton of people.
Yeah.
And I'll just put it this way. The people that we asked didn't come. And then there was other people that
approached you.
Yeah. I mean, holy cow. It was like Mike and Bethany Falls. I mean, Bethany Falls is a huge part of this. And she's like, First. And then she's like, we're coming. We went to lunch one day. She's like, yeah, we're coming. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So God just doing what he does and providentially moving the pieces around to build our little team. Yeah. Really cool to be a part of.
That's awesome. What makes 511 special and what excites you about 511?
Oh, man. I feel like there's a lot of
it's a big question. You can
arrogant
take it
ways
however
that
you
I could
want
answer
to.
that. What makes you special? What makes your church special? Oh, I don't know, Amanda. I mean, I guess part of our DNA, when we sat down, I sat down with Aaron still, and we're just trying to wrap our heads around, what is it that, in part, what do we want to do? But what does God want to do? Yeah. What does God want to do? And what might be unique about that? And not forcing it in or making it unique, on purpose, but what can we do to, serve a need in maybe a niche that's in Brevard County? And I've tons and tons and tons of time and prayer and effort and conversation. I mean, we finally landed on, and basically, again, it's just the gospel. It's just the gospel. That's all we want to do. Yeah. And that's like the only thing we care about. Sure. And so how can we every breath and everything that we say and do and everything that is written and posted and everything, it's got to be about the gospel. And so that's kind of how we came up with the name. And it's 1 John 5:11. This is the testimony. And I just understand that I was like, this is all that matters, if I can say it that way. God has given to us eternal life, and this life is in his son. And so when, someone asks, hey, Amanda, what church do you go to? You say, oh, I go to First Baptist. And people around here, they go, oh, okay, I know where that is.
They go, is that the big church that cut down all
exactly.
the trees?
Is that the big church that's killing the environment? Yeah.
Just kidding.
Just kidding. It's fine.
Man, you put your phone on airplane
I know.
mode.
No, it's an alarm. Alarms don't go off. Don't go away. Yeah.
You're good.
A prayer alarm. I'll do it in a minute. It's fine. Like people, we were talking about, and people ask that question, but it's usually the end of a conversation, not the beginning of one. And so when they ask us, we're like, oh, well, 511, where's that? What's that? What kind of name is that? Yeah. And immediately our people get to say, hey, it's based on a verse and it essentially just outlines the gospel. So little bitty things, we're trying to absolutely saturate everything that we do with that.
Where are y'all currently meeting and what are the plans kind of for that?
We currently meet at the Christian Care Ministry building. It's like Sarno and O'Galley. It's up there, Brandon Harbath. Yeah. It's all in who you know. And So we get to meet there, which is just silly. Amanda, it's silly. I don't know if you've ever seen the facility, but
It looks nice. I've seen your stuff on social media.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, even me, church plant's usually in somebody's garage or something,
Yeah.
And we talked to a few high schools and things and had some things lined up, and some of them fell through and others were legitimate options, and then kind of reconnected with Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just unbelievable that we get to be there in this beautiful facility, and all of the people in the support, and they bend over backwards. They set
That's awesome.
80% of like everything up for us on a Sunday.
That's awesome.
It's insane.
That's a privilege for a
Oh
church
my
plant.
gosh, yes.
Yeah.
So we meet there and we get another year and a half at least out of that, to where we can kind of park and just get our feet under us a little bit. And that's kind of their vision of CCM, is to have that space available for church plants to kind of get their feet wet a little bit and then get on their feet, hopefully in a year and a half, 2 years. And then they can shuffle them out and have somebody else come in. So it's really cool that even people in First are a part of that too, through Brandon.
Yeah, that's awesome. As you look back, where have you seen obvious places of God's direction towards this path?
I guess the most obvious one is just him transitioning us out of our previous ministry that we were involved in. And we were there for a long time. Like I said, 12 years.
Since 2008, yeah.
Yeah, 12 years. And like we, loved it. It was a great experience and wonderful, and served and learned so much and grew and all of the things. And then God just kind of uprooted us, a little bit. And then little by little, it's like, okay, very obvious, like, here, I've got something else for you. And, we started coming over here. And like I said, within a couple weeks, it wasn't long. He's like, okay, a little time. And then we're getting ready to go again.
Yeah.
But it's been such a refreshing time of just being, I don't want to say out of doing full-time service and stuff like that, but I mean, just coming to a service and being able to sit and sing and worship and have no responsibility.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know that I remember what that was like.
Especially as a pastor's kid. I am also a pastor's kid. So there's like strings attached sometimes, it feels like. So that had to have been a very different experience.
Yeah. Just really, really, really refreshing and rejuvenating and healing in a lot of ways. And it's just God, giving us what we needed to be able to transition and kind of recharge and revamp and be retooled by him to do something else.
That's awesome. What advice would you give to someone who's trying to discern what their calling is?
Oh, man. Advice. Well, I mean, there's nothing that's more important than praying about things. I feel like that might be a good Sunday school answer, but I mean, it's still a good answer.
It's still a good answer.
Jesus is always the answer to every question. I feel like that's probably the most important thing. But then, I mean, there's people around us that God puts around us. We've been walking through the beginnings of the Christmas story, and we talked about Mary and Joseph. I guess Scott did too.
Yes, we all did.
Last week. And just the idea of God sending these messengers to these various people to get, them the information that he wants them to know. So he sends Gabriel to say, hey, this is going to happen. He sends this other angel to Joseph. Hey, this is what's going to happen. And so I guess just maybe pay attention to the people that are around you, that are walking with the Lord, that might speak into your life, because they just might have something to say that would be from God, not in some sort of extra biblical way or anything like that, but just paying attention to like the way people encourage you and might substantiate some gifts that you might have. Hey, you're really good at encouraging people.
Yeah.
Maybe you should be involved in a ministry that is encouraging people, or you have a beautiful voice, or whatever it is. You should do something with your voice, whatever. Yeah. So just being kind of attuned to believers around you. Above that, I mean, just praying about it, because I think that if God, or rather, if you really want to do something for God, I mean, like, he's going to give you stuff to do. Yeah. You really want to serve him, he's going to find a spot for you.
For sure.
And then I guess maybe the other thing I would say is, I don't know that it has to be some huge, like the will of God is this huge mystery, right? That like nobody ever seems to know.
Yeah.
It's like Jesus boiled everything down. He's like, love God and love people. If you're doing that, I mean, there's so many opportunities around us within the church and outside the church to do that.
Yeah. And
so I don't know, maybe it's just, don't make it such a big deal.
Yeah. Awesome. Who has influenced you on your journey?
Oh man.
Who are some people?
Yeah.
It feels really pressure when you're like, who is the one?
Right. Who do I give credit for? Who do I don't?
Oh God, that's a
Right.
Sunday school answer.
Right. My Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Like my dad was always my hero, and not because he was a pastor, because I mean, I was so young when he was a pastor.
So he wasn't always a pastor.
Well, he's a pastor, like a lead pastor of a church.
Oh, okay.
And then he did that special needs kind of pastor ministry for, I mean, most of my adult life, or kid life, and through my adulthood. But like, wait, what was the question? Sorry.
Who is someone who's
ADD.
influenced you on your journey?
There it is. No, my dad, like, is 100%. He was my hero and wanted to be just like him in so many ways. Totally imperfect, but just an awesome guy. Awesome everything. He was my hero. And then, like, my youth pastor was pretty influential in my life. His name was Mark Bates. Shout out to Mark Bates. I'll text him and tell him to listen.
There you go.
Yeah, because he would, I don't know why he would listen to this. He's I think he's like a sports pastor or something now in Naples. Like,
that sounds fun.
I don't even know what that is. But of course he is.
You play sports for Christ.
That's
let us
right.
know, Mark.
Yeah, let us know, Mark. He was pretty influential in my life, my teen years, and going to camp and just hanging out with he had 3 boys. He played soccer together and basketball, but he was a big deal to me and really influential during those kind of formative years. And then, man, like recently, the staff of First Baptist, Aaron Still, man, I meet with him all the time. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, he's like a 9.5 out of 10. He's pretty good.
There you go. That's
not
pretty
bad.
high.
That's pretty good. That's like a solid A minus.
Yeah.
That's pretty good, I think.
I'm a 9.5 out of 10. I'd put that like a solid A.
Maybe an A. We'll give him an A.
Yeah. Because that would be like a 95.
I guess
It's like a solid A.
I'm not used to those
Good job,
numbers.
Aaron.
Amanda,
Solid A.
My school.
Was school not really your thing?
That was not my thing. So.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about your family. Have they been supportive of this? Where are they at in the journey?
So, like, I guess immediate family. I mean, wife, and got a little guy, Jackson. Mm-hmm. He's got his tonsils out, so he's.
Oh, how old is Jackson right now?
He's 4.5.
Okay.
And he's getting better. He's doing better. He was playing a little more today, but his last week was kind of a bummer scotch. But he's
at least he got him out. Well, we're recording this before Christmas. It's going out after Christmas, but at least it happened before then.
Yes, he's all right. But anyway, so I guess really all he knows.
Yeah.
I mean, because he's been here.
So he would have been born in 2019 then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
May, yeah.
You had, and then so really for him, all he knows is First Baptist Melbourne and church planting.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And so he remembers some of being here and all this stuff, but he calls it the old church and the new church. And when we first started going to our new church,
we're going to blow his mind when that building's open, and then we have 2 old church, new church.
Oh, man.
2 new churches for him.
That's too much. It's too much. So he loves it. And Morgan is in, she loves it.
That's awesome.
And I mean, like, so my dad is in heaven, so he loves it. Sure he does. My mom's super supportive. Everybody we know, everybody's cool with it.
That's awesome.
Like,
is your mom local?
She lives in Lakeland, my sister.
Okay.
So sort of.
Local.
I think they're at my house
Florida.
today. They came over today.
Oh, nice.
Come hang out. Yeah, why not?
Okay.
It's great.
I call that local enough if you can just hop over to visit.
Yeah, it's like 2 hours.
Okay.
That's pretty local.
Nice.
But not too
cool.
local.
That's good.
Right.
Just local enough.
It's perfect.
What are you looking forward to in the next season of ministry? Looking forward,
I mean, it's fun because, like, starting a church, you're forced to really evaluate, what you really believe about stuff. Mm-hmm. And why, do, quote, churches do X, Y, and Z?
Yes.
And do we want to do that? Yes. Or is it just maybe something that churches do? And does it fit, our vision and strategy and context and, the gift set that we have as a church of, I don't know, about 50 or so.
Uh-huh. What was your core team size?
I think there was 32 people.
Good core team.
That stood on the stage with us. And half of them were kids. It was almost like a 50-50. Like under 11.
That's
like
wild.
Kiddos, yeah.
How is that? We're going on a rabbit trail now, though.
It's fine.
How has kids ministry been with church planting?
It's, oh my gosh. We have our assistant pastor, his wife, shout out to Desiree Duquette.
Okay.
Like, she oversees all that stuff.
Okay.
And it's It's
when
awesome.
when you put it that way, where half of your church is a child.
Yeah.
That's wild.
It is. It is. And because, I mean, when you think about it, it's like, okay, you got 30 people. You have like a dozen adults.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it's like, okay, this is really, I don't know, that's a good number, I guess, the 12 disciples and all that. So
if it's good enough for Jesus.
That's right. It's good enough for me. That's right. Good enough for 511. But I don't even know that I could even speak to that. I guess it's going okay because people keep coming back.
That's good.
And I'm not in there,
Yeah.
But I know that everybody is enjoying it, and the people that are helping, she's got a cool rotation of people.
Well, we'll
that
bring
come
Desiree
through.
on.
We'll bring
Desiree
Desiree
learn more
in.
about kids
I don't
ministry
know.
and church planting.
I guess it's going awesome.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm
and
adding
she's
Desiree to
crushing
my
it.
list.
Yeah, you should have. She's a riot.
So if you're watching or listening to this, Desiree, you've been warned.
Make sure that she brings her kids, Jamie and Jenny. They're hysterical.
That'd be a racket. How old are they?
Jamie's like Jackson's age 4. Jenny just turned 2.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Next time.
Next time on Mission Control. So this is our final question then.
Okay.
What advice or encouragement would you have for someone who is, I forgot. What advice or encouragement would you have? Yes, I know. What advice or encouragement would you have for someone who's feeling the call to make disciples here and everywhere for the glory of God?
Okay. But here we go with more advice questions.
I mean, but this is like the final advice. No pressure now.
Okay. If you had to say one thing.
It's only the Great Commission.
Right. Well, like, I mean, that was kind of where my mind was going. It's just like, it's not unique.
Yeah.
And I guess I'll say it this way because this is something that we talked about in kind of our core team meetings. I think that, the call to the Great Commission and even, the way that First Baptist says it, here and everywhere, it's like, whoa, I'm just
here.
Yeah, I'm just here. I'm not everywhere. But maybe I feel inadequate, or I just feel like maybe I don't have the gift set of like a Scott Wilson or somebody that, and it can maybe be a little intimidating. And you think of just evangelism, I have to like go up and talk to somebody and be knowledgeable enough in the gospel to share the Romans road or whatever it is with somebody. And I'm pretty simple. And like we talked about, my grades in school will corroborate that. Like evangelism, I think we're already all good at it. We just don't understand that we are. Say if you go to an awesome restaurant and you come and tell me about, hey, Matt, I went to this awesome restaurant and it was X, Y, and Z and it was this and it was cool and you should go there. You're evangelizing.
Yeah.
Evangelizing is just trying to convince someone to have value in something that you find value in.
Yeah.
Obviously for us, it's the supreme value of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But we already do it.
Yeah.
And we're already awesome at it.
Yeah.
We can be very convincing. And it's just what we're passionate about. And so if we find our passion in the person of Jesus, you just learn to talk about that. And using all of the skill sets that we already all have, it's just applying it in that context. And so I guess my advice would be to someone who really wants to kind of begin to step into that space a little bit more, I don't know, formally maybe, or just make the decision to go and be more evangelistic or whatever, is you're already good at it. God has already equipped you to be good at it. And he has given you the same spirit of that same Jesus you want to talk about.
Yeah.
And that you have the freedom to share because, the results are not our responsibility.
Yeah.
We're just those same little messenger people I was talking about before.
Yeah.
We're just little messenger boys and girls, and we run around with a message, a great message, good news.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And the freedom that is in that, and there's no pressure in that.
Well, the freedom and the joy of being able to be used, because God could use someone else. He doesn't
he can do
need
anything
us,
else. Right?
But he chooses to use us, and that's exciting.
Right.
That's really cool.
It is really cool. And he chooses. I mean, you look at the kind of the riffraff of the disciples that he put together. Walking on the beach, it's like tax collectors and thieves, and Peter's like cutting people's faces off, and it's like we would never pick those people. Yeah. But it's cool to watch. God used the people that maybe we wouldn't pick to be on like the Jesus A team. He uses us. Yeah. Which is fair.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us.
It's been a blast. Thank you for having me.
I'm looking forward to seeing how 511 continues to grow and how God uses it. So yeah, it'll be exciting.
Me too.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Mission Control podcast. If you're interested in learning more about Launch 10X and different ways to get involved in what God is doing here at First Baptist Melbourne, a great place to start would be visiting our website, launchme.church. In our next episode, we have Taylor Cannon joining us. While Taylor was a student here at FIT, he was attending First Baptist Melbourne, and he's been away a few years attending seminary, but he has recently moved back to the area, and he's joining the ministry team here on our outreach team. I'm looking forward to our conversation and getting to hear a little more about how God's been using him at seminary and what excites him about coming back here to Melbourne. In the meantime, I hope you have a great week on mission with King Jesus.